Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to my channel. I am Geneva Rose. I am an artist, an inspirational speaker, a creator, and you can find all things related to that here on my channel and with all my content. So without further ado, let's just get right into the video. Okay, now I'm so excited. I'm beaming. Can you see the glow? Do you see the glow radiating off of me right now? I am so excited about this video. This video it's been a year in the making. It's been a year in the making. This video is my 2023 favorite reads. Now, in 2023, I made not a resolution because I don't really do like the resolution things anymore, but I've started this thing where like every year I make like a new kind of like creative type of goal. That's like a thing that I've started. So in 2023, I decided that I would make like a goal, a declaration for myself that every month I would read 2 books. Now, depending on what type of person you are, this may sound like a lot or it may sound like a little, but for me, I have not been consistently reading for a long time now. I've been a person where like I used to read a lot when I was younger, and then like throughout the years, I just kind of don't really read a lot, or like I'll read a book, or I'll be like do a thing where like I'll read a book and I'll be really obsessed with it, and then I'll read another book really quickly and I'll like love those books that I just read, but then I don't read a book for like months and months and months. And I just felt like I just really wanted to get back into reading consistently, and there's just so many books that I feel like I constantly see and I'm like, oh, I'd love to read that, oh, I'd love to read that, but I'm like, I'm never making the time to actually read that. So I'm like, you know what, this is it. This is how I'm gonna do it. So in 2023, I made a declaration to myself that I'm gonna read 2 books a month, every single month, and I did it. Cue the applause. Cue the applause. Cue the applause. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I did it, and here we are in 2024. I'm making this video. I did it. I read 2 books a month, and I'm just so proud of myself for that, because like I really did it. And I will not lie, girls, there were a couple months where that was really hard, and it feels like 2 books doesn't seem like a lot, but sometimes you can just get like so busy, so doing other things, or just not taking the time for it, or just so like you're enjoying doing other things that you're just like, ugh, I'll read tomorrow, and then tomorrow turns into another day. So there were definitely a couple months, especially in December, which is ironic because December was literally the last month, was probably the hardest month to finish the books, to finish my goal of reading 2 books a month. But I did it, and I'm here to share my favorite reads. But I really just want to like encourage anyone out there who's trying to get back into reading, you know, people who love reading or who haven't read in a long time. Like, reading is so amazing. You can learn so much from reading, not even just like, you know, the self-help book type of thing, because that's something that I realized this past year. Like, I can't always read like self-help books and like spirituality books and things like that. Like, no, I need to spend a lot of time reading like fiction books and fantasy books, sci-fi books, things like that, because it really gets like my creative juices flowing. It brings me just to this other realm and fantasy of reading that I love to be in. Like, those books, those stories that like take you away to somewhere else and you just feel like you're in another world, that's like the best books. And that's like the best feeling when you're reading, is when you really feel like you're transported to another realm. And when you just feel like, I just love when you're reading and you're just imagining everything. You're imagining the way the characters look, the setting looks, everything. That's like one of the best parts of reading. And I feel like it's also just really good for your mind to just be in an imagination zone and to, you know, take yourself out of not looking at a screen, not looking at your phone, not looking at technology, like looking at words, a concept, looking at words in a book. It's actually really good for our mind. Who would have thunk it? But no, seriously. So I really enjoyed doing that. And I'm just really excited for this year. I'm using that 2 books a month goal and like thing that I made for myself to take that into 2024 and read even more books. Something that was really exciting for me was the fact that there were many months that I read more than 2 books. My highest month, I read 7 books. Now, when you haven't been reading consistently, reading 7 books in 1 month, I was like, how did he do that? How did he do that? But I was just such in the flow. I was loving every book that I was reading. And that's another point. That's a little tip before we get into the reads, is that if you don't love what you're reading, it's never But if you don't love what you're reading, it's not going to be enjoyable. And there were many times where sometimes it'd be hard for me to read the next book or to stay consistent because I just simply was not enjoying the book, but I just wanted to finish it. So I think that's another thing with reading, is you really have to find books that you're really interested in and that you really will be passionate about reading. Otherwise, it's really not fun and you really won't encourage yourself to read because you're just literally not enjoying it. Why do we have to read books that we don't enjoy? Like, no, I'm not subscribing to that. Thank you so much. But anyways, that was something that I did. I'm really happy about it. And that's why I can be here right now and making this video, because I did it. So without further ado, let's just get right into the video. I read so many good books in 2023. It's actually astonishing to me, some of the books I read. And when I started out the year, like literally in January, the first book I read, You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. When I tell you, I fell in love with that book, and that just sent me on the right momentum, because it was like I had fallen in love with this book so hard. I was like, oh my God, it's only up from here. Like, we're just gonna find the most amazing books. And that book just helped me realize how much I love romance novels, and I love Black romance novels written by Black authors, especially by Black women, Black stories, Black characters. That book just touched my soul. I loved that book. I loved like everything that the characters went through. I loved everything that Faye went through. I loved seeing like a story of someone who lost someone and was rediscovering themselves and rediscovering love, and how she just fell in love and how it was so messy. I love some good mess in a book, girl. I'm not gonna lie. I love some mess. And in the romance novels, like, come on. Mess is like part of the criteria. If there's no mess, sometimes it's just too much of a simplistic read, which, don't get me wrong, simplistic reads are great. Sometimes you need just like that quick, happy, rom-com-y, not that big of dilemmas in the book type of reads. But it's also nice to have like shit going on, to have dilemmas, to have problems, to have, you know, the characters go through complex things. And I feel like that book really did. And I love that book. I feel like all over TikTok, Black women champion that book, and for good reason, because it's a beautiful read. Now, another favorite, this is really like, I feel like, I don't know if it's like number one or number two. I feel like I'm trying to debate in my mind which ranking this book is going to take, which placement this book is going to take. But Honey and Spice, by another Black woman, by another Black author, another romance novel with Black stories, Black characters. You heard me, you feel me. I loved that book. That book is like, and that book is also too, like, I don't want to call it young, but the characters are young. So it doesn't have like maybe the emotional heaviness of adult relationships and adult romance reads, but it still has like the most beautiful love in it, and it's so pure and it's so just like authentic and sweet. And I feel like that book is literally, I've said it before because I did make like a review specifically all about Honey and Spice, but I mentioned in that video as well, like reading Honey and Spice is literally like reading a Black 90s R&B love and basketball type of, you know, you feel me? Can you get what I'm saying? Like, it's that type of read. Like, you literally feel like you are reading like brown sugar in a book. Like, it's that type of vibe. And it just fed my soul. Like, the music, cool references, like just the Black references. It was just, I love that book. It was so sweet. It was so endearing. I loved the love story between the two characters. I love a slow burn. That's something I realized too. I love a slow burn, and I feel like that was a slow burn, but then you're reading it and you know all along what's going on. The characters just don't. And I love that. I love that book. That book's like, I don't know if it's one or two, because you know where the battle is with it taking 1 and 2 with 7 Days in June. Oh, girl, now that book right there, that might be my number one. That might be number one. I don't know though. Honey and Spice, it kind of goes back and forth. But 7 Days in June, that book, yeah, that book might be number one for me. That book might be number one for me, because when I tell you, that book just, like, I love that book. I think about that book all the time. When I read it, I was so in love. Like, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it and I'm talking about it with you, I definitely do think that book might be my fave. It might be my top. might be my top, might be number one. It really might be. That book is just so good. Like, you cannot, I love that book so much. Like, I just love, like, that book is heavy. No lie, trigger warning, all the heaviness with that book. But it is just so, it's worth the read. It's worth the emotional roller coaster that the characters take you through, because the love that you feel from them, like the fact that they were right. If you haven't read the book, you're late. Where are you, girl? Where are you? What time? Where are you? I'm calling you. I'm calling you to read it, because it's literally just such a good book. Like, the fact that the spoiler alert if you haven't read it, but like the fact that the characters are literally writing to each other like they were together as kids, and that's what I loved. I also love that even though you are like in the book, you're hearing about like what they went through when they were younger together, it still feels very adult. It still feels like it has that emotional potency of like adult relationships, even though you are hearing about the past from them being kids. I hope that makes sense. I loved how they had been writing to each other for years. Like, they were both just in love with each other for years and years and years and years, for the entire time, but they just couldn't admit it to each other because they hadn't had a conversation about what they thought someone else did, and they thought like, when it all comes to the conclusion of the book, you just realize, like, one message that I really took from that is like, you really need to just like communicate and just don't live in your pride, because like they both thought that the other person did something that they didn't do, and that's what kept them from being together. But they've been writing to each other for years. I'm just like, you've literally been writing to each other for years. If that's not the most beautiful, poetic writer love story, I don't know what is. You've literally been writing romance novels about each other, love letters to each other for years and years and years. I'm just like, I can't. And just like the love scenes in that book, the emotions in that book, it's so deep, it's heavy, but it's so beautiful. Definitely, I think that might take number one spot for me. 7 Days in June was just so good. I'm so looking forward to whatever comes next from that writer, Tia Williams. Girl, you're in my heart. You're in my heart. You're in my mind. All of these authors, though, you're in my heart, you're in my mind, and I am looking for everything that you do after this. And that's another thing that I will say is like, reading all of these books, it helped me discover all of these amazing authors, all of these amazing Black women that are writers, that are writing the most amazing books, and just all of these authors in general. Reading has definitely just opened me up to like a new creative sphere, and I'm really excited about it. So I'm looking forward to anything and everything that comes from Tia Williams and all of these authors, because they just spoke to me. 7 Days in June touched my soul, touched my spirit, touched my heart, touched my mind. I hope we get a sequel of that book. All of these books, You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty, Honey and Spice, 7 Days in June, other books that I'm going to mention in this video. I really do hope we get a sequel, because I can't just live off of that. I can't just live off of that. And another thing I will say is that a lot of these books I did get from my library. So if you're someone who does not want to buy the books, does not want to make a commitment, because I was just starting reading, I was like, I'm not going to buy all these books. Like, that's a lot of reading. I'm not trying to, I don't have my home library just yet, girl, just yet. But what's amazing is if you get it from your library, support your local library. Hello, that's very important. But then when you love the book, you enjoy it, then you can buy it. And these books are definitely books that I would buy, have on my shelf, and I would read. I'm already literally wanting to reread 7 Days in June and Honey and Spice. Like, it's already in my mind right now. I'm like, I need to reread those books. But anyways, that's just a little side note. Rent from your local library. Thank you. Now, another book that I absolutely loved from 2023 that I read is Wash Day Diaries. Now, this book is a little bit different because it is a graphic novel. So it's kind of like a comic book, but that was my first graphic novel that I've ever read and enjoyed, and I loved it because it's more of an adult graphic novel. I feel like when I always think of like comic books or graphic novels, I always think of like very childhood type of things. I think of like it's for kids, but it was definitely for adults. And if you see it and you read it, you'll see what I mean. You'll see what I'm talking about, girl. But it follows a story of like, I think it's 4 Black girls, and they're all friends, and it just follows like kind of like what they're going through at that moment in life and how like it intersects. And it just thought it was so cute. The visuals, the art, oh my God, it will just like take you into another world, take you into another dimension of art and pink and purple and pastel, beautiful colors. I loved it. And I think that's why I love that book so much, is because of the artwork. Like, So beautiful, so amazing, and I love just like a story of Black friendship. It was so cute, it was so sweet, unlike anything I'd ever read, as I've said, because I haven't read any graphic novels, at least not since I was an adult. So I really love that, and I appreciated like what it brought to me, because now I can be more open and interested in graphic novels. Cool genre, it's a cool niche, and I just love seeing like my people express themselves in different ways. So I really appreciated that book, and I definitely recommend it if you're into graphic novels. Or not, like me, as I said. This book may probably be one of the most important reads that I read in 2023. It is the autobiography of Malcolm X. Now, I have been wanting to read this book forever. It's like I said in the beginning of this video, you know, I would always be like, oh, I want to read that. I want to read that. I want to read that. But I want to read it. So now I have read it. And I just learned so much about him. Like, that book really changed me. And just like, of course, I knew things about Malcolm X, but not to the extent of reading his book and just everything that it takes you through, his journey, his life, like from a child to a teenager to an adult to being on the streets to being a drug dealer to being, you know, to being in the Nation of Islam, to basically just being a Black activist, everything that he stood for, that he believed in, it's so empowering to read his own transformation, his ideals, his own philosophies. Like, I really appreciated everything that I learned from that book, that I learned about him. And I gained such a newfound respect and admiration for him and appreciation for wanting to know more about him, because he's made such an impact on the Black community. He's made such an impact on, you know, the Nation of Islam, such an impact in the culture, in government, in so many aspects of life, that it was just so important that I read that book. And I'm just so glad that I did, that I made the commitment to reading it. And I watched the documentary right after I finished the book. So I just feel like I got all this like knowledge of him, and it really just opened up my mind in a lot of ways. So I really appreciate that I read that book. And it's a very beautiful and sad thing, though, I will be quite honest, that his teachings, his philosophies, his speeches, his words still have the same potency that they did then as they do today. Like, it's beautiful that his words have such resonance, but it's sad that they do still hold the same resonance, because as Black people, as Black Americans, as people in general on this earth, are facing the exact same things that he was speaking about back then now. And of course, things have gotten better, just as when he was speaking about them, things had gotten better to a certain extent, but there's still such a long way to go. And I guess that's the hope that we have to focus on. But it was very eye-opening to see that so many of the things that he was saying, they still hold the same presence back then as they do today. And that just goes to the power of his words and his teachings, but it also goes to shows to the state of the world, like what we go through, what we've been through, and what the journey ahead looks like. Especially if you're Black, if you're a Black American, all of us tapping into a little bit of that Malcolm X truth, because he stood for truth. He stood for Black people. He stood for freedom. He stood for real liberation. He stood for economic equality. He stood for freedom of the mind. He stood for, Black intelligence, Black, regalness. He really stood for that. And I just appreciated that so much from reading his books and just getting a feel for his energy. So yeah, that was one of the most important reads, I would say, because all of these reads are important because I enjoyed them, because I learned from them, I had fun with them, so they're important to me, right? But that book is important on a different level, because it's similar to like a self-help book or something. It's something that it can really, be applicable to your life, to change, to expand your mind, and that's always super important. Now, getting right back into the Black romance novels before I let go. Now, if you're a Black girl, you know about this book. And if you don't know about this book, you need to know about this book. Like I said about the other one, where are you at? I'm calling you. Before I Let Go, so beautiful. One of my favorite reads of 2023. Such a beautiful story of a second chance romance. And I loved what I really loved was the lead character, how she was going through so much. I loved that because it kind of sounds weird, but it's like I love that because you don't always hear about or read stories where like the woman is going through like all these devastating things. She's going through grief, depression, raising her kids, stepping away from her lover, all of these things that I feel like she was going through. It was so real. It was so like real life. Like people really do go through those things. People really do lose someone that they really love and then they lose themselves in the process. People really do get very depressed to where they can't function in their relationships, in their work life for themselves. That's a real thing. And I just thought it was beautiful how you read of what she went through in that regard, but also you read of her transformation and how it impacted her relationship and how it impacted how she transformed and how they came back to each other. And I loved the lead guy. I just felt like he was just such like a, you knew he still loved her from, I feel like, the first page. You just know. I knew. I'm like, he's still in love with her, even if he doesn't realize right now. I don't care if he has another girlfriend. I don't care if he's dating 10 girls. I don't care. I know he still loves her. I know she still loves him. So the whole read, you just know. And then they do that whole thing where they're like, okay, let's just have one night together. I'm like, one night together? Babe, you've loved each other for years and years and years and years. One night's not going to cut it because you're going to get one night and then you're going to remember how good that was. And then you're going to want it again. And then you're going to recognize how much you love each other, blah, 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 blah. And that's exactly what happened. I love that book. It's such a beautiful romance, such a beautiful story, so important, so special. I love that. And another Black read, another Black book with Black characters, Black stories, Black authors, Black writers, Black women telling stories of the love that we want and desire. I love that. Black women deserve love. And that's something that I took from a lot of these stories, is just how much like we just need love. We need to be loved and we deserve romance and love. All women, we all deserve the romance and love that we desire. So that's another beautiful thing that I took from all these romance novels, is like, I'm a lover. Who needs love? Another favorite of mine that was honestly unexpected, because I've never really been into thriller reads because they kind of give me like the creeps, to be honest. I'm always like, why would I want to read like a scary book? But honestly, after reading this book, I was like, okay, I'm into it. I see it. I see why people are into this. I read When No One Is Watching. Now that book is good because it really like, it combines like that thriller mystery fiction aspect with like real life. Like it talks, like if you haven't read the book, I don't want to give too much away, but like, a little spoiler. So it's basically like, think of gentrification, but think of it like scary and think of it like in a sense of sci-fi. That's what this book is. And I loved it. I loved the climactic parts of the book. I loved like, it was definitely like a slow burn thriller, but thrillers are really supposed to be slow burn because you can't just like hit the climax right in the beginning. You gotta lag a wait, girl. So I love that. I just really appreciated like that the book gave like a lot of like Black history and Black elements, but then it just, because if like you're talking about gentrification here, that is like, come on, that's totally related to people of color, to Black people, to brown people. So I just love how it connected like that aspect of like reality and realism, and then connected it to like thriller and just everything that happens. Such a cool, interesting read. I would love to read that book again, to be honest, and I would definitely be interested. I'm definitely interested in like reading more thriller reads that are kind of like on that similar kind of like genre. If you read the book, you understand what I mean. But I definitely plan to read more thriller books. Again, like all of these books I've said, like it just opened me up to a new world. And now I wasn't reading I wasn't reading thriller books before, but I am reading them now. When No One Is Watching, such a good book. Now this book right here. If you want mess, if you want drama, if you want that maddening love story that makes you like want to pull your hair out, but you can't stop reading, you need to read Magnolia Parks. When I tell you, that book took me to. And if you've read it, you know what I'm saying. And if you haven't read it and you do read it, you'll know exactly what I'm saying. That book will make you crazy, but you cannot stop reading it. Like you cannot stop. You love the characters and you hate them at the same time. Like you hate the romance between them, but you love it and you want it for them at the same time. Now, I read both of the books. It's a series. It's a series of 4 books. The next book is coming out in February 2024. I'm very excited. And it's so crazy because when I first read these books, I was like, oh my God, I have to wait forever for the next book. And now here we are in January 2024. And I'm like, that book is literally next month. Like, I remember reading the first book and being like, when is that going to come out? Time is crazy. Time is an illusion. But anyways, that book is crazy. It's so messy. It's so good. The author just does such a great job of being so descriptive, as in all of these books. But Jessa Hastings, she just does a great job of being so descriptive about everything, even when it comes down to the fashion. Like, she intricately describes every single outfit that Magnolia wears. And I just love that because I love fashion. I love, creative expression through style, through clothes, through accessories, through makeup. And I just really appreciated that aspect of a book. Like, if you love Gossip Girl, you're going to love Magnolia Parks. I promise you. Definitely one of my favorite reads of 2023. Now, this book was definitely one of my 2023 favorites because it was just such an easy, fun read. This author, her name is not coming to my head, but all her books, she has a really good way of just writing like happy, like easy, like Netflixy rom-com type of book. So if you're interested in that type of vibe, you need to read It Happened One Summer. It's spicy, it's fun, it's easy. I loved it. The relationship between the 2 characters I enjoyed. The character development I enjoyed from both characters. It was spicy. The spicy scenes are top tier. I loved it. It was easy. It was fun. So enjoyable. And I do believe it's going to be turned into a movie. So that's really exciting. When you fall in love with the book and then it turns into a movie, it's really exciting. It can be disappointing as well if the movie does not, accurately portray the book, which it's never going to fully portray the book because a book can be 500 pages, and it can take you however much long to read that book, but it can be so much more descriptive, and it can have all the little intricacies of the characters and the story and the plot and all those things, whereas a movie is going to show you the overview so that you can just get a basic feel. But it's still really exciting to think that this book is going to be made into a movie so you can see these beautiful characters, and I'm just looking for the spicy scenes. I'm like, yeah, I want to see the spicy scenes on camera because those were top tier in this book. I really enjoyed that. This book was highly recommended. It Happened One Summer was recommended everywhere, especially when I was looking for spicy books. That was like top. So if you're interested in some spicy, easy, fun, Netflixy, rom-com type of vibe, I would definitely read It Happened One Summer. Now, this book was kind of like an unexpected read. I just found this looking for summer books. I did go through like seasonal type of books. I tried to be I tried to read seasonal. I'm like, okay, this summer books, like fall books. It's fall. Like, I hope I said that right, but I tried to do that a lot. So this book called The Summer on the Bluffs, it was so sweet. It was just heartwarming. And I loved the main character. And I will tell you why I loved her. Because I feel like there were many main characters in the books, but one thing that I really loved about her is she was just like unapologetic about like her individuality and who she wanted to be. She was definitely a mother. If you haven't read this book, she was definitely a mother to the girls in the book, but at the same time, she was very honest about like, I didn't want to be a mom. I wanted my career. Like, I wanted to like create money and success and travel and all these things. And I love stories like that. I love women being women. And what I mean by saying that is women having the freedom to choose whatever life they want. If you want children, if you want a big, huge family that you've given birth to, I think that's beautiful. And I think that's amazing. And I think that's wonderful. But if you are someone who does not want to give birth and have a huge family like that, or you want to have a family in a different way, but your passion, your aspirational goals, or that connection in your soul is not for children, it's like for your career, your art. I love that because I think more women deserve the freedom to choose that. I think more women wouldn't have children if society gave women the permission to not do that. Now we're stepping into an age where women have more freedom and permission from themselves and society to choose. But I think historically, as women, we haven't been able to choose if we really want children, if that's really what's for us, if we really do want to be married, if we really do want the white picket fence. And I just love that the main character of this book, she did not want the white picket fence. And I loved just the story of it all. It was very summery. It just made me want to be like in the Hamptons or like on the beach. It was just such a beautiful beach vibe. It made me want to eat food. There's a lot of cooking in this book. There's a lot of cooking. There's a lot of ingredients. There's a lot of stuff. And it just made me like want to be on the beach, eating, hanging out with people I love. So I love that about Summer on the Bluffs. Definitely a beautiful summer read, but you could read it anytime, but I definitely would recommend reading it during summer because it just aligns so perfectly. This book it's still in my heart. Daisy Jones and the Six. Now, if you've watched the show, if you've read the book, you know what this book does to you. You know what Daisy Jones does to you. You know. This book, like, when I tell you this book changed me, like, my physiology has changed. My psychology is different. I'm different from reading this. Like, seriously, I love this book so much. Another book that I read during summer, perfect for a summer read. And right after reading it, I immediately started watching the show, fell in love with the show, fell in love with the characters, was obsessed for a little bit, but it really just reignited my love. I've always loved 70s music, but it just reignited my love for 70s music. Like this, I love the music in Daisy Jones and the Six as far as the show, but it just reignited my love for 70s music and 70s vibe, culture, art, like fashion, like it fed my soul. I love romances where it's like not always in real life, so it's funny that I like to read these type of books, but it's like they really shouldn't be together, but like they have to be together because it's just like I see no other way. Like, what do you mean you can't be together? No, there is nothing that can stop the love between you two. No. And that's how I felt about Daisy Jones and the Six. I'm like, no, nothing can stop this. This is meant to be. You're meant to be. You're meant to be together. Like, I love the book. Love the book. So good. Definitely a summer read that I recommend. Read the book, watch the show, fall in love with the music, fall in love with the 70s all over again. Or if you already love the 70s, let yourself revel in it and enjoy it even more. I love this book, Daisy Jones and the Six. So good. Another summer read that I absolutely loved, and I think this may have been my last summer read that I read for the 2023 summer, is Every Summer After. Such a good book. And I loved it also because it was unexpected. I did not expect to enjoy that book as much as I did, but I did. I read that book so quick. It was one of those reads where like you don't want to get up, you don't want to move, you don't want to do anything. Like I read that book, I think I read it in 2 days. I literally wasn't doing, the second day I read it, I didn't do anything else but like read that book. Like I had a few things to do during the day, but that whole night I just read that book. I didn't move. I was reading it during my dinner. I was like taking it with me everywhere I walked. I'm like, dude, I have to finish this book. It was so good. And I love those reads where it's unexpected. I didn't expect to fall in love with the book, but it just, ooh, I felt it. Such a beautiful story of romance. I love romance. I'm a sucker for romance, and I love romance of like unrequited love or like, you know, coming back together or the slow burn, and it had all the elements of that. It was so sweet, a little juicy, a little drama, a little scandalous when you see what kind of happens. I don't want to spoil it, but when you see what kind of happens with the characters. But it was also kind of like some of the other books I mentioned, like Before I Let Go. It was real, like it was real life. You know, it was kind of like you could see how, like, when you see who the characters are, you could kind of understand how that could happen, even though it was messy, and even though in real life I'd be like, no. But in the book, you're like, oh, I get it. Such a good read and such a perfect summer read. She talks about being on the lake so much. It made me want to go swimming. It made me want to be, you know, out in the sun, in love. I love the book. Such a good read. So thank you so much for watching this video. This video makes me so happy. I love talking. I love sharing. And I love talking about the books that I've read. And I also am just so proud of myself for committing to a goal and completing it and it really changing me in a way I did not expect. Now I have reignited my passion and love for reading. Now I've connected and discovered all of these amazing artists and writers and community. I've literally just recently joined a book club. Like, I feel like it sounds kind of dramatic, but it really has changed me. And it was something so small that I had no idea it was going to change me as much as it did, or expand me much as it has. And it really has. And I'm just so thankful and grateful that I did it. I'm thankful to myself. And as you can see, if you've been already subscribed to my channel, I have made reviews of a few books. Not every book that I have read I made a review about, but I have made book reviews on a lot of the books I read in 2023. So if you're interested, definitely check those out. But by saying that, I wanted to say that it's just really cool how one little thing I decided to do, I ended up like creatively expanding. I ended up making YouTube videos about it, TikTok videos about it. And it's just so cool how you can make one little goal, one little commitment, and it can just really change your life and in the most beautiful ways. And I'm just so thankful. So thank you for watching this video. I love reading. I hope that you love reading too. If you're a reading fanatic, I applaud you. When I keep watching videos of people like, oh, I read 100 and something books, I'm like, woo! I'm trying to get on your level. I'm trying to get on your level. I don't even know how you're doing that. But when you love to read at the same time, you kind of understand, because it's just like you just spend a lot of your time reading. You will spend a lot of your time going to those fantasy realms. So I love that. Reading just takes me to a place I just need to be in. Sometimes we just need an escape, a healthy escape. And books are a healthy escape, and they're a healthy way to feel connection and love and just all the good things. So thank you so much for watching this video. I'm so happy I got to share and spend time with you and just share what I'm passionate about and interested in. I hope this inspired you to read, to make a new declaration for yourself in 2024, to expand creatively, to just commit to something new that you need to do and want to do for yourself. I'm so excited for what 2024 will bring. Should I make a video about what I want to read in 2024? Let me know. I might not, might just surprise you. But I have so many books already on my 2024 list. I'm so excited. It's time. I'm already ready. I'm ready. The engine, the keys are in the engine. Ready to rev up. Whatever that is. I'm ready to go. Ready to drive away. I'm so excited for whatever. I'm so excited for these next books. If you're interested on following me on any other social media platforms, I am on Twitter, Pinterest, TikTok, Instagram. I post regularly and frequently on all social media, including YouTube. So go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Follow me on all platforms if you want to know more about me, if you want to get more of my vibe, connect to me, talk to me, chat with me, you know, do all the things. Let me know your book recommendations. Let me know what you've been reading. Maybe let me know what your favorite books of 2023 are, or what you are planning to read in 2024. So again, thank you so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!